The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Open your eyes.
Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to Open Your Eye, the first video podcast via via social media, broadcasted on the Pace Radio Network. I'm Kim Cooper, your joint host. Normally, I have my joint host sitting right directly beside me, Miss Cindy Howell, but we're doing things a little bit different today. Cindy Howell, you are my guest today. Yes, she is in the interviewee chair because I'm going to talk to her about her recent journey and her recent Iboga ceremony. And I am so looking forward to today's show. Hello, Cindy. How are you?
I'm really great, Kim. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really, really excited for today's show, and everything. I mean, I already know the story, so I'm kind of busting to get it all out, and I've had to go. Oh, nope, can't talk about that because she's coming on the show, and it's been really hard not to share everything and sort of keep a lid on things. We've been letting little bits and pieces out, but today we've had an opportunity to really discuss in depth a lot of what you've been through. I want to start off by, for those of us that may be joining that aren't aware of your journey and aren't aware of what you've gone through, if they're just seeing us for the first time. Cindy is, of course, my joint host here on the show, and today she's in the opposite seat. Give us a bit of a background, Cindy, on what got you to start on this journey seeking out Iboga.
40, at the time, I believed it was 40 years. This was because it was a couple of years ago, of PTSD. I tried modern medicine. I had tried every pill on the market, and I was on 9 of them when I found cannabis. Cannabis got me off those 9, but it didn't give me the peaceful, easy feeling of healed that I needed. So I went through a lot of therapy. We're talking 20 years of therapy that just didn't work. Somebody introduced me to microdosing psilocybin one day when I was in New Brunswick. And I started with that. And I'd say 6 to 8 months into that, I heard of this documentary, Dosed. I mean, a lot of people have watched it to this point in time. And they were putting it on at the Halifax Library. And I was very excited because I thought I was going to go learn all about mushrooms, because when they advertised it, that's what they told us it was about. Come learn, come watch Dosed about, mushrooms, and mushrooms on the, the front page and everything. So off I went, thought I was going to learn, a bunch of stuff about mushrooms, which it did. It taught us. And then for the lady that they were following, she decided that she needed to go further to beat her demons. And she was introduced to Iboga, and I watched her transformation just in the documentary. And I thought, damn, I need to do that. I really need to do that. The Halifax Psychedelic Society put it on. There were 600 of us there watching it, and we all had the same question. How do we find this? We all got the same answer. Seek and ye shall find. So I saw
nothing cryptic about that, right?
I saw it everywhere I could. I asked a lot of questions to a lot of people. I got a lot of dead ends. A lot of people didn't know about it. They're like, Iboga who?
Yeah.
So eventually, I started working with you. I was doing the 710 sesh. We had just decided to start this show, and you sent me a link and you said, "Oh my God, you have to watch this!" And it was the Psychedelic Frontier.
Yeah.
I was halfway through that in tears, thinking, "I've that's it. I've got to do this. I have to do this." So I started reaching out to people at that point in time. I friended the gentleman that they were following. I friended, which was Patrick Muldoon. I friended him. I reached out to Mark Howard. I reached out to Patrick Fishley. Mark said, I want you to go talk to Elizabeth Bast, and talk to her. She's really great at what she does. And she'll be able to direct you to the right people for you. And I'm like, okay, right. Because at the time Mark was over in Costa Rica, and I PTSD, there was no way I was going through customs. You know what I mean? So I had a lovely chat with Elizabeth, a very amazing lady. And 20 minutes into it, she goes, "I know who's right for you." She goes, "You need to chat with this gentleman out in Vancouver. He works with a lovely lady. His name is Garyth Moxey. I'm going to send you Garyth's information. I want you to reach out to Garyth and tell him everything you just told me." And I'm going to be really emotional during this. I'm kind of sorry, but I'm not. I have Kleenex and I don't wear mascara on the bottom, so I'd be okay. So
I planned on being emotional today as well, Cindy. It's quite the story, and there's no way to not be emotional. I mean, you go ahead, girl. This is a journey for sure, and everything fell into place, right?
It did. I took Elizabeth's recommendation, and it took me some time. I had to build my guts up because I was terrified of the world. So I eventually reached out to Garyth, and he got right back to me. And I went through the processes there with him, and it So that's how I think.
So you met this guy right here. Garyth Moxey himself. Garyth, hello, Garyth. You have had quite an influence and an impact on Cindy's life. And I've been learning more about you because of your impact on my friend's life. And I'm thrilled to death that we got an opportunity to have you on today's show, and I'm even happier that we got you connected with Cindy. You work at a place called Inner Realms. Tell us a bit about Inner Realms and what you do.
Inner Realms, well, what do we do? Primarily, for the most part, our forte has been dealing with opioid detox. We work with Iboga and Iboga, and like I say, primarily that's what we do. But we do we do take on other cases, and so when Cindy rang and we made that connection, then we could see that there would be a possibility that we might be able to work with her, or I should say, what we do is we create the space for somebody like Cindy to come and do the work. Do you know what I mean? In some, we're not the ones that do all the hard work. In some respects we're kind of like Houston. Should something start going awry or something, but in all fairness, really, it's the client that comes and really does the hard stuff. Blair and my partner Blair. She's the cohesive glue that holds Inner Realms together. So yeah, in many respects, what we do is we create a space, a container, if you will, a safe space for other people to come and do the work. And that's basically really what happens.
So you're a facilitator.
We support. In some respects, but much of the work also that we do is also to kind of stay out of the way. When somebody's doing the work themselves, we're supporting. There's not too much over influence from us. It's not like we're not guiding them in certain directions. That's really the medicine and themselves that is doing that. There's a symbiotic relationship that happens with the person and the medicine that they're working with while that's happening.
I could see that.
So
I could see that very clearly with Cindy. Indeed, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get to one part because, of course, there are always critics in everything that we do, right? Everybody's got an opinion. So we address that. You've got credentials. You're not just, some hippie guy that's like, hey, yeah, come here. I'm going to take you on a trip.
Well, let me think about that one. I have credentials in the sense of experiential credentials. I recovered from. I've been around psychedelics for more than 40 years. I was part of a free festival network in the UK. And which was similar to, I guess, kind of like Deadheads, if you will. I used to have dreadlocks and stuff. We all lived in buses and trucks and traveled around the country, kind of like the psychedelic circus, if you will, which in some respects was more of would be viewed as a recreational use of psychedelics. In some respects, I guess, you would say that. But at the same time, that meant that I've spent a lot of time taking psychedelics and being around psychedelics, and also with people that are having difficult times, So, but later on, I took LSD in a much more serious setting in order to combat my alcoholism. I've always been a bit of a life of the party kind of thing, and there was years actually where I was away from psychedelics when I was traveling around in Southeast Asia, living in Southeast Asia. My drinking increased and got progressively worse, and kind of got to a very dysfunctional point. And it was when I moved back to or moved to the States that the LSD passed in front of me, and I had the opportunity to take that for healing purposes, and I did, and that was 21 years ago, and I haven't drank since. So it was really the intention behind the LSD use that kind of set that off, and that set me off wanting to work with psychedelics in some kind of healing modality years ago then. And that's when I discovered about Iboga on the internet, or the addiction breaking or interrupting qualities of something like Iboga. And so about 20 years ago from California, I wanted to set off to Canada to start working with Iboga because it was legal here then. And circumstances and everything meant that it didn't happen until much later, but now I'm going into my 10th year of working with Iboga. So,
and you've been studying this plant, right? You've been studying it. You take journeys to go and study it and visit the people that have been using this as a traditional medicine and that kind of thing.
No, not really. No, see, I come from there's other people in our community, like my friend Mark Howard and Patrick. They're coming from a much more traditional place. Like they go to Gabon and they work with TA. Whereas I went and trained in Mexico from ex-heroin addicts. So there's quite a difference, in the way that I work and the way that Mark works is quite different. I work with Iboga, and Mark works with Iboga in a more, traditional ceremonial way, whereas our way is more of a one-on-one, usually with a nurse present. And Patrick came. for Cindy's journey there. So we support it's in a slightly different way, you know.
In a
I
slightly
wasn't
different way.
trained
But
in that traditional sense, and the way we use Iboga has always been around, drug breaking, breaking or interrupting drug addiction. Whereas what they do in Gabon, they don't have opiate addiction and things
right.
like that. So it's coming from a different place,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Different treatment set, different everything.
Sure,
That's very
I
cool.
always tip my hat to those guys and much respect and everything, but it's a completely different context. I
Right.
wasn't
Right.
trained by somebody with face paint and stuff like that and traditional stuff. But my thing is, and also the clients that I work with, for the most part, are not really so interested in that aspect of that thing. They might do it later on, but at the moment they're addicted to dope and need to get the fuck off these drugs. Thank you.
Right.
And those
Right.
are the people
And that's the
that I deal
problem.
with.
And
Yeah.
that's the focus for you.
And
And
it
there's a
just so
place for that.
happened,
I mean, that's needed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and it
And
just so
you
happened
doing
that
this,
this drug was available, and so like, okay, so let's use this then. And when Howard
yeah.
Lotsof discovered it in 1962, it just so happened that it had come from Africa. It was an obscure oneric psychedelic, and lo and behold, look at that, and it interrupts addiction.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. Amazing. And you also treat apparently with the proper connections, people with PTSD, such as Cindy.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's in
can do.
Walk Cindy. And
Yeah,
that's how you met.
yes,
You guys met was through that circle.
yeah,
All from watching us starting this show, watching documentaries, doing our own microdosing system thing that we've been on a journey for, led us down this path. One led to the next, led to the next, led to
yeah,
you. And then Cindy took her own little trip, quote unquote, and
yeah,
went out to BC to meet you. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
how was
Yeah.
that, Cindy? I know how it was for you when you were getting on that plane and you were on your way to the airport and then your stop over in Toronto because we spoke the entire time. But please tell our listeners.
Well, yeah, no, the flight out was something, and I have to say one of my fondest memories with Garyth will always be our first joint in Vancouver. I'm going to take you to the best place to smoke a joint, and it was beautiful. Unfortunately, the cop did not agree with the idea, and that was my first 20 minutes with Garyth, and left us with a good story and a good laugh and a great smile, and to me that's like it was the perfect way to start a great friendship. But on my journey, on my way, once it was planned, once it was set in stone, once I was going, I met a lot of people along the way that looked at me and kept telling me how brave I was. And until I was done, I didn't feel brave. I felt desperate because I had the draw of alcohol. I had the draw of pharmaceutical drugs, wanting me to come back. And not to mention the PTSD was just about killing me. 42 years of PTSD by the time I got out there. And so I was desperate. And I really, now that I'm here, I like, wow, no, kind of was brave, right? I mean, I hopped a plane in Halifax to go take a psychedelic drug with a man I had seen in the movies only, and stay with a bunch of people I had met on Facebook. I was
Bit of a leap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is quite the leap. Yeah, absolutely. The change in you has been phenomenal. I can speak to that firsthand. Again, I'm not reading my notes because I keep tearing up. I knew this was going to be a difficult show. I'm so glad you guys hooked up. You have no idea how much it fills my heart that you guys hooked up. The difference in Cindy is phenomenal, is the only word I
Yeah.
can think of.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
terrific.
um, it's phenomenal. So Cindy, you arrived, you smoked a joint at a great place. Your first 20 minutes with Garyth was fantastic, and then you went off to where you were going to be staying
Yeah.
for a couple of days during your journey. Tell us a little bit about the steps that you took from there. Like, what was the journey like? So just give us an overview. You had some preparation to do prior to your first journey with them. Tell us about the preparation and what your first journey entailed with the psychedelics and with Garyth as your psychedelic guide.
Well, the preparation came. I had to amend my diet a little bit. I was asked when Blair emailed me, she asked me to eat as vegan as possible and to try and give up caffeine. So I did my best. I was really nervous about, the purging part of the whole journey. Terrified, actually.
Yeah.
But I spent the first night, the first day and the first night just, sitting with Garyth and Blair and chatting. We went for a few walks, ate healthy. I played with Nurse Millie, who's just like my favorite little puppy in the world. Next to, of course, the one that's in my lap right now, because I can't say that and have her hear me. So it was about just getting to know each other in preparation for what I was about to do. I learned a lot when I was there. The first dose is what Garyth explained to me as a handshake dose. They kind of want to just introduce you to it, and it was really intense. It was really intense. I'm much more spiritual now, like after, than I was before, because it showed me a lot. Like, I mean, like I learned what a spirit walk really was, and I truly believe that I was walking with the spirit, and it was showing me my life, and it was showing me what I needed to concentrate on. It was helping me heal by showing me my life. And it was powerful. When I first lay down and closed my eyes and opened my eyes in my soul, I felt as if the medicine said, hey, I hear that you've come along to heal. And then I felt like it reached out a hand. It said, I got you. Let me show you. And it took me, and off we went. Yeah.
Off you went, and off you went. Now, your first dose was a little bit hard on your system, if I remember correctly.
And so was the second one. And Garyth will know more about how, I assume you feel this every time, but it makes you feel. I was told it was going to make you feel motion sick and make you feel heavy, and boy howdy, I mean, moving a finger would onset some of the waves, and it really does. Garyth would be able to tell you why, but it does. It really makes you feel heavy and motion sick.
All right, can you speak to that, Garyth?
Ataxia is a big part of it, and that's kind of why we like to do a couple of days of lower dose, as the body tends to make an adaptation to that. And it's not with everybody, but it's often like a motion sickness kind of thing. If people move too quickly, it can bring about nausea and vomiting. It's often movement. Sometimes, people will get a sense of that in the first couple of days, but then that's why we do that, so that the body tends to kind of accept it, and then it's not, as we get into a higher dose, the body isn't going to go, get that shit out, so it's a couple of days of lower dosing to have the body accept that, and that's kind of why we do that. I don't know. We don't really know a whole lot about what's going on.
Yeah.
Because of course the
a lot of
testing,
it's guesswork.
I mean, traditionally they might have reasons for certain things, but then traditionally, with some of the tribes will say that, you'll die if you don't have face paint on when you take Iboga. So,
Yeah.
exactly what that's about, I'm not exactly sure, but we find that it dampens down and it gets less with a little bit more exposure to the medicine. So we do a couple of days of lower dosing, and then when a higher dosing goes in, the body's not like, what the fuck is this? Get it out, So,
Right.
and then
Right.
and as I recall, you had some nausea in the beginning, but not when we gave you the higher dose.
Yeah, no, I was much better with the higher dose. The first dose I did, it was actually when I feel like when I was back and I was actually chatting with Kim when I had to go running to the bathroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. So your handshake dose. So you must have thought after taking that, when your feet were back on the ground. I know after talking to you, what was your first thoughts? Was it okay? Well, if that's the handshake dose, what the fuck am I in for tomorrow?
Yeah, like the handshake dose came along. I had a lovely a spirit walk with Iboga, showing me all kinds of stuff. It was hard. There was a lot of stuff hard to see, and so yeah. I mean, I was heading into the next dose thinking, wow, with dose 1, what is dose 2 going to bring?
Yeah.
And of course, I had Patrick was there, and he sat with me at the beginning, and we had a lovely chat while I was waiting for the medicine to to work. So yeah, I mean, like I was very nervous. No, I wasn't. In some ways, I wasn't as nervous as the first one. In some ways, I was much more nervous.
Was it nervousness or anticipation?
A huge combination of both, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
What am I going to see today?
That.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. Oh, see, I've said it before. I'll say it again. This shit scares the shit out of me. Okay. So.
well, how as to come in on this topic, I've never really seen more thrown at people than they can handle with Ibogaine. Do you know what I mean? And people like that when we've done the lower doses, and they're like, and now you're going to give me like 3 times as much as that tomorrow? Like, holy fuck! And I've never seen more thrown at people than they can handle. I have done with weed oil, and I have done with I have done with mushrooms, or LSD. Somebody totally fucking wigging out, but not with Ibogaine. Even though it can be very intense. Really? Yeah, very intense. It's very seldom. I mean, I've had to hold hands and stuff like that, but not. It's never been like, that's it, I'm out of here kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Never been more. I'm
very envious of Cindy. Cindy's journey, and I'm very envious of Cindy's journey, because it's something that intrigues me. It's something that I'm on the edge for me, but I don't necessarily know if I need it. But at the same time, I don't know if that thought is there because of my nervousness about doing it. So that's my logical brain reconciling, saying, no, you don't need it. That's a very possibility. I have a very strong brain. But saying that, Cindy was able to do this journey and let go. Mm-hmm. When she took the Ibogaine, which is, I mean, that this is what we're going to get into in a minute, is the letting go, and how crucial of an element that is to the healing journey for it to take place. And Cindy, you just went, yeah, baby, and you were there, right? You were like, I'm on it, and I am so envious of that because I've never been able to do that on any trip I've done. And like I say, like you, I grew up in the 70s and the psychedelic era. And I mean, I was out there and I tried it all and more than once for a lot of it because it was really cool. And, I really loved my psychedelics back in the day, but I always had one toe on the ground. I never completely let go in any trip. No matter how high I got, it was either a foot firmly planted or at least a minimum my tippy toes were there. I'm not letting go. And that scares the shit out of me with ibogaine. And I've spoken to others that feel the same way, and that's what kind of makes it scary. Because with ibogaine, if you don't let go, you could be in a world of trouble, right?
Well, I don't really know about that, and I don't know how, like your interpretation of the journey afterwards is what it is, and then that's really kind of what you got to look at. You know what I mean? In many respects, not so much the journey also, but as you integrate that, it's like that's something to look at. The fact that you're got one foot on the ground, what's that about? You know what I mean? For example. But
Yeah.
and so I don't think that there's any trouble or having some kind of lifeline. Do you know what I mean? Whatever that might be, metaphorically, lifeline to whatever's keeping you safe or whatever. I think that's fine, And as far as really getting into trouble with ibogaine, I don't think you really can.
With trouble, I mean a bad trip. Like, I mean a bad trip.
Well,
Coming back and just saying that was a horrible experience.
Well, then that's not really the horrible experience. Could be the most fruitful, and because it's going to be what it's going to be. Do you know what I mean? And that's what that's what the psychedelic experience is, And in many respects, it's kind of like a magnifying glass, because they are amplifiers. So if certain things come up during the journey, and then and it's amplified or intensified, then maybe that's something that's the real fruit from that journey. A lot of times we will go in exactly, and then we go in with certain expectations about how it's going to be, and often it's fucking nothing like that. Particularly with something like ibogaine, or ibogaine and Iboga, because ibogaine and Iboga is very unique. And when I came to do it, I'd been wanting to do it for, I'd been wanting to do it for maybe. Because I first heard about Iboga when I was 16. And I'm 56 now, and I took it 10 years ago. So I've known about it for a really long time. It's in The Plants of the Gods, which is a book about psychedelics that I got at a young age. And so I had a fixed idea of how this journey was going to be. And it was absolutely nothing like that at all. It was a very
never is it?
No, it was a very harrowing experience. Actually, for me, I had a drug relapse, an opiate relapse, and so I was taking it for those purposes, and so I wasn't taking it under the best circumstances. I was taking it under desperate circumstances. And the whole journey for me was there's that artist Pink, and she's wrote a song about Raise Your Glass, and it's all about drinking and getting fucked up, and so as the journey kicked in for me, that video started in my head, and it went on for about 15 or 16 hours. And every time the video came to the end, I'd go, oh my God, and then it would start again. And then a more dry heaving into a bucket, I hadn't drank.
I know that repetition.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't drank in 10 years or something, but I'd had an opiate relapse, and in many respects, it didn't really matter whether it was alcohol, methamphetamine, or opiates. Do you know what I mean? I'd stepped over that line, and so the Iboga was screaming at me, "Why did you do drugs, you fucking dumbass?" Really loudly in my ear. And I was like, holy shit, back off. I've been telling myself this for the last 3 weeks. I don't need you to tell me as well, so.
That's funny. That's funny. Now you talk
So,
about Iboga speaking to you,
yeah,
Cindy, I want to
directly.
jump back to you. What did, I know you went in, you're like, yep, I'm here. You embraced it. No problem. I am all in. I watched you do that. And I was just thrilled to death. But in the back of your mind, tell the truth, in the back of your mind, did you think, is there really going to be somebody that's talking to me? Or were you sure? Or did it, when it happened, did it blow your mind?
I didn't expect, I didn't even consider that I was going to be talked to by the medicine. My expectations were I was just going to be, I figured I was going to be taken to, like, just automatically I'd be there to deal with the spots that caused my PTSD, and I'd be able to, like, to see the me that was originally hurt. So when I first closed my eyes on like that first second when I heard the voice, I was kind of like, in my head, it was like, where the hell is that coming from? And then I very quickly, probably about the fourth word, realized that it was the medicine talking to me. I really do feel like I saw a hand and I reached out and I took it. And then from that second on, I was, as soon as I took the hand, I was on the back of an eagle, like, riding around the world and getting a view of how small things really were. So yeah, it was pretty crazy and it was definitely, it was a bit of a shock, but I mean, I got talked to, and I got talked to more than once. Right. So amazing experience.
Now this was on the second dose?
First
dose.
Yeah.
So this
when
is
I
all
first
happening on your handshake dose.
Yes. Yep.
So what happens with the big one? Is that where did your head go there? Like, what happens with the big one? Oh my God.
Well, yeah, I thought, if I'm going to have this kind of spirit walk with a handshake dose, what's the next one going to be? And it was just more intense and longer. I had more of a chance to ask questions, such as, up until I took the medicine, I believed that I was 7 years old with the first time I was hurt. And not to make Iboga sound like an asshole, but he laughed at me and he said, "Think again." And I'm like, "Well, okay, you take me to where?" And he took me, the medicine took me to a completely different spot. So yeah, I mean, like, I had a lot of conversations and I had a lot of eye openings, and like, I got took into the exact moment that, when I asked, and I had to ask, because until then I just said, I want to go here and visit this little girl, and I went to the wrong age. And I went to the wrong little girl. So I asked to go to the right little girl so I could give her love. And I got taken there. And, it took a little while because I had to earn her trust. That part of me was very untrusting of the whole world. My mom eventually had to come hold her hand because that was the only person that little girl, that part of me, trusted. But we got her out, and I got to hug her, and I got to embrace her, and I got to let her know that she's not alone, and she knows that now. And that's when I healed. I healed in that hug. That's when it started. And that's the tool that it gave me. I was able to get that little girl back and make her part of me again, because she hasn't been part of me for 44 years.
So you reabsorbed yourself.
Yeah, she became part of me again, and we are part of the same soul, part of the same being. Part of me isn't hiding in the back of the really dark closet anymore. There's light on it. There's a bright light shining on my whole world now, and I have learned to forgive myself for hiding her and for pushing her away, and she has forgiven me for doing that. And it gives me and my psychiatrist something really, really powerful to work with now. So now we can work at really putting to bed my past and making sure that it doesn't continuously haunt me for the rest of my life.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
There, healing. It's a healing journey, right? It's
Yeah.
reintegrating parts of you that are buried and locked away and just tormenting while they're buried and locked away in the dungeon, pounding on the door the entire time. And it's not until you open that door that you can find peace. And that's what Iboga did for you.
Yeah, it gave me a lot of things. I mean, it didn't just give me that, but it gave me back my relationship with my mom. My mom and I used to be at odds a lot. She never knew what had happened to me. You know, and in this spirit walk, I got to see her and hug her too, and help heal my relationship with my mom. And I truly believe that my mom was there. She helped me bring that little girl back to me. And she told me that she was proud of me for taking the leap that I took. And it was huge. It's a big deal.
And that's also part of your healing process, because there was tensions and issues with mom. Being able to reconnect with the little girl, being able to reconnect with mom, it's all part and parcel of reabsorbing everything that you've locked away in life and dealing with it face on, accepting, and then, you know, moving forward.
Yeah.
Without the torment. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. We've talked a lot about Iboga and your journey. We're going to continue our discussion. We're like 2 minutes away from our regular break time, but I think with all this going on, I think it's Kleenex time anyway, and it's doobie time. Let me breathe and recoup and come back at you with more, because we've got a lot more to talk about. Big difference between Iboga and Iboga. What are they? What else happened on Cindy's journey, and how has it been since she got home? We got all that and more coming at you when we come back from this next commercial break with Garyth Moxey, Cindy Howell, and me, your joint host, Kim Cooper. And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888. And grow on with CTCP.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains, and when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed, and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
And we are back from the break as I exhale my final toke. It was a much needed wipe the tears away, medication time, and recoup, regroup, and come on back with my guest today. Normally sitting in the joint host chair, we've got attendee or interviewee, Cindy Howell, is with us talking about her Iboga journey. And of course, she is joined by her psychedelic guide, Mr. Garyth Moxey. We've been talking about inner realms as well as Cindy's journey, not only out to BC, but her subsequent trips while she was there. Dose 1 and dose 2 were quite eye-opening and life-changing for you. We talked about, you're embracing the little girls, a little girl that was hiding away in the closet, and speaking to your mother and flying on an eagle's back. Amazing stuff. I mean, I saw the videos, and yes, there's videos, and we are working on getting something together for a small release of some of those in the future, so stay tuned for that. But the emotion that was coming over you during your spirit walk, I mean, I sat watching it like this. I mean, my knees were up, and I was like, and oh my God, and I'm wiping my eyes, and I was bawling, and I wasn't even there. I can imagine what it was like for you, the overwhelming emotion. Just overwhelming emotion.
Yeah. It was, I mean, and I'm still getting it. I can't lie. I still have epiphanies that just hit me with emotion, and I'll sit here and just bawl tears of happiness. It's, the medicine hasn't stopped working. It's still doing its thing. And we're a month later. It's been a month and 2 days since I left. So it's still working its ass off in me. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next. Tell us about, since you've been home,
Oh, yeah.
a little bit more on the revel. Like, I mean, stuff keeps happening. You didn't leave the retreat and it was all over. It's a
No.
continued journey after that.
Yeah, I've been hit with a lot of tests, just things happening, and I am, I have to figure out how I want to face it all now, and how I handle it all now. Some of it's been really hard. I've had to reach out to a couple of friends. Garyth has called me a couple of times with some lovely words, and very positive and understanding, and you have, and reintegrating and trying to be this new person I discovered in my old world. It's not easy. I have. I'm lucky enough that I've got some decent friends, and I'm able to be open with people that are staying in my world. I went out for supper the other night with a friend, and I explained how I was now, and she thought it was just great. Like and learning how to do that is hard, because I used to have like a lot of issues, and as you can tell, I'm still kind of tripping over my words a little bit, but it's because I've got so many of them going on in my brain. I had a lot of trouble finding my words or speaking up about my truth years ago, and I'm finding that's diminishing greatly. I have been able to step up and speak my truth to a lot of people. I have decided that I can't be around certain negativities, and I just kind of walk away, and I don't harbor any ill will for those negativities. Like, I mean, they've shown me a lot, and I'm talking about even stuff in my own brain, right? All of this stuff was there to protect the little girl that was hurt. Like, I mean, that's why that's why I had all of these negativities in my head and in my life. And that little girl doesn't need that protection anymore. I've got her. She's in my heart now. So I'm able to kind of tell them that, you're just not necessary anymore. Thanks a lot. I love you very much. You can go over there and go to sleep now. And, that works with almost everything. I even had a friend say, that'll work with those hornets that are bothering you. And believe it or not, when I told the hornet that I it's okay, you can just go, it went away. I mean, like, my fear went down and it buggered off. And, so yeah, like, I mean, that little chant has, that's actually, my friend Steve taught me, has gone a long way in helping me, with the physical world and with my mental world.
Right. I'm going to back it up a little bit. I had a question over the break that I jotted down. I forgot to ask. Sorry. How long was your spirit walk? How long were you under the influence of Iboga? How long did it last? Your second and your first dose?
Second one, the first one was 6 or 7 hours by the time I was allowed to have my technology back. And that's kind of how I guided it. When Garyth said, okay, now you're allowed to have your technology back, it's like, okay, so now I'm, I felt done. So, yeah, the second one was 17 hours. So I had 23, 24 hours altogether of being under the influence. Yeah.
17 hours consecutive.
Yeah, 17 hours. They took my tablet and my phone away from me. I mean, I was under the Iboga influence. Me trying to be funny.
17 hours. 17 hour.
And I mean, I wasn't always gone on the spirit walk. I was grounded. Sometimes I came back and had a couple of conversations with Blair. When the physical body needed to go to the washroom, I came back to get me to the washroom. Like things like that. And then near the end, as my toes were hitting, I would come in and out. I would come back. I had a couple of conversations with Patrick. I asked for my phone at one point in time and got a resounding, no, not yet. Stuff like that.
Not a chance.
Yeah. Not a chance. Yeah.
So the phone. Garyth, speak to me about the phone. You don't get your tech.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it depends on the person and how deep they're in and stuff like that. I know that Cindy was eager to be in contact with people like yourself and what have you, but so actually she got her technology back faster than most people would, because I knew that what was going on was being somewhat monitored from the outside, so that it was okay. And I figured that she was at a point where she would be able to coherently, convey what had been happening, But
Yeah.
for the most
Yeah.
part, like we don't, apart from, we don't want a process to be interrupted from the outside. At the same
And
time,
then there's
we
always
don't
drunk
want.
calling.
Well,
We
like
all know
Ibo
about drunk
dialing.
calling, right?
We call it
Yeah.
Ibo dialing. Somebody might pick up the phone and go, you know what? Fuck your job. I ain't coming back. What do you do? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. So we would normally like to give people a little bit of time to, maybe
Yeah.
come down a little bit and reflect on, that there is a real world outside that they're at some point going to have to attend to, But so
Yeah.
often it's like we give people a phone back to call the wife or whatever and say, "Yeah, I'm still alive. It's okay."
Yeah.
And it's normally just to satisfy the nerves of the family members that are on the other side, and or we'll check in and say, they're okay. Like you can,
Yeah.
you might be able to talk to them in 6 hours or something like that. So.
Yeah.
But also that
Yeah.
technology thing,
It's
it's like
the safety.
it's in the last 10 years or something, it's something that's really a part of us. I'm terrible. I mean, I've got people contacting me all the time on different platforms and stuff, and then somebody asked me recently, okay, so what was your screen time today then? I don't know. And then I
I don't
looked
know.
at it
Yeah.
and went, holy shit, and it wasn't all YouTube and Facebook and stuff. It was a lot of WhatsApp, Signal, Messenger, do you know what I mean? So it's a constant thing that we're a part of, and so it's good for us when we're engaging with medicine like that to be able to go, you know what, let's disconnect from that for a little bit,
Yeah, I won't
So
look
that's
up my
kind of
screen time.
important.
I can't even look at that. I can't even. I don't even want to
Yeah, I
think about it.
know, right? Shocking.
I don't want to think about it. Oh, that would be a scary thing. So yeah, no Iboga calling for Cindy or anybody else. So that's the point
Right.
behind the phone, and it makes total sense. I mean, we've all had that moment in time where oh, I'm brave enough now. I'm gonna tell my boss to go fuck himself, and it's like it's just a really
Yeah.
bad
I'm really
idea.
gonna tell him what I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Really bad idea. Really bad idea. So I'm glad you got their
Yeah.
backs in that respect. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I've got you
I've
here.
had enough bad phone calls in my time.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I've got you on the floor here. Explain the difference to us between Iboga and Ibogaine.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, if you look at it in the full spectrum, like in Gabon, when they're taking Iboga, they're using the bark, and it's actually not the first bark; it's the second bark on the root of the Iboga plant. And so when they take that when they're doing that traditionally in Africa, when they do their journeys, they're eating root bark. And the root bark can be anywhere between sort of like, I believe in alkaloid content between about 2.5% to 15%.
That's quite a range.
So it is quite a range, yes. So depending on the age of the plant, I think the older that they are, then the higher alkaloid content you'd have in there. But so when you look at Iboga, and let's say we look at it in a round thing like this, full spectrum of alkaloids, and depending on who you're speaking to, there's between 20 and 12 different alkaloids, and ibogaine is one of them. But ibogaine is accounts for about 50% by volume, and then there's all of these other alkaloids that are important, but don't really carry the weight that ibogaine does. If you see what I mean.
Okay, so comparatively, coming from the cannabis community, could we reasonably say that it would be similar to a cannabis plant and all the elements and the cannabinoids in a cannabis plant, where THC is the main element? There's CBD and CBN and CBG, which are lesser elements.
Exactly.
They are important, but THC is what we're after here. So is that the
yes, yeah, and ibogaine seems to work particularly on the addiction interruption. When it's isolated, when we take Iboga, it's a little bit harder on the system. It's hard to explain to people that haven't taken it. When you're taking Iboga, it tends to run more slowly like this. And when you take ibogaine, it runs a little faster. An ibogaine journey might be less time, or the more intense period of it might be running a little faster and would be over, and you'd feel yourself switching into another phase. With ibogaine, there's less nausea, generally speaking, and it doesn't drop the vitals quite as much. I find that Iboga drops heart rate and blood pressure more. So what's happened when we've come into working with the isolated ibogaine seems to work much better for when we're doing opioid detoxes or working with cocaine, or that's really the alkaloid that the predominant one that we're after, and the one that seems to do really the most work. So we use ibogaine from Vocanga africana, which is a completely different plant. It's extracted, and what you get is 99.9% pure ibogaine, which is the same as if it was being pulled from Iboga. It's just that Iboga is under stress. And and so it's far more sustainable to get your ibogaine from Vocanga africana, and also it has less nausea involved with it, and more of the nausea comes from the TA, and the TA is what we call total alkaloid, and that's an extraction from Iboga that contains all of the alkaloids. It's an extraction, and it often is around about 30%. So it's 30% alkaloids and another 70% fiber. But what it means is that when you want to take TA, you don't have to eat a basket full of fiber and shit a bunch of wood to get to the alkaloids, the medicine that you want to get to. So we often add a little bit of TA into the journey with ibogaine to give it a bit more of a rounded feeling. I sometimes feel that ibogaine without a little bit of TA is kind of like an Italian meal without the garlic, if that makes sense. But it's really the ibogaine that's doing the work. It's doing the work, and that's the most important one. And sometimes we don't use TA because of nausea. Some people have a lot of nausea when they deal with that, and so it doesn't really matter. I could do all of my work actually with just ibogaine from Vocanga africana, because really the one. Very cool. That's the one I feel is really doing the work. And so Mark and those guys, from Iboga Soul, all of their work is with TA, or root bark and TA, and just the total alkaloid, but most of their work is not really specifically around opioid detox and drug detox. You know, it's a lot more psychospiritual stuff.
Right. Psycho-spiritual stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There are many avenues that lead us to these psychedelic plants and the psychedelic journeys. Everybody's on their own journey, and Cindy is definitely on hers. Since you got home, Cindy, we talked a little bit about, how it's changing. It still creeps into your life. You're still evolving. You're still learning. You're still having conversations with Iboga in your own little head there, and figuring out what some of those messages are that you received. I guess it's kind of like downloading a whole bunch of files all at once. Now you got to sift through them all, right?
yeah, something like that, I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know I've seen a tremendous difference. In your words or in your view, is there one area that you feel like it did the most good for you now that it's been over a month since you came home?
One?
Is there one or is there multiple?
There's multiple.
Is it every friend?
I have had a couple of sessions with my psychiatrist, and they've been amazing. She is floored with the difference in me. She's just absolutely shocked. She is, if she wasn't learning before, she's learning about psychedelics now. She's totally on board. Really, really excited. My dad, a week ago today, he mentioned how, and it's not really that I'm different, but I'm different. But he noticed that, he said, I can tell you're just doing so much better. So I'm happier. I am, like you and I have talked, I'm more understanding. We sarcastically said, I've got the little baby blinders on, and that's almost by choice though. I mean, like I spent 44 years with PTSD and seeing the world through negative eyes and hurtful eyes and hurting eyes and broken eyes. And, one of the things I wanted was to release the negative and release the fear and release the anger and the rage and the negativity. After 44 years of basically having that 99% of the time, I think I've had enough negativity and anger for the rest of my life and then some. So I want the blinders on. I don't want to see the negative, and I'm much better at ignoring it, blocking it, being done with it, walking away. I mean, like I just, and I would be, when some things would happen, I would be beat down. I mean, a year and a half ago, I turned off Facebook for a month and a half and spent a month and a half in bed crying because of some, a negative thing that happened. And not anymore. I don't think that would ever happen to me anymore. I have more strength and more love for humanity that I want to be understanding. If somebody's having a bad day and their negativity comes up towards me, I want to be understanding to they're having a bad day and it's not me. It may be, focused on me, but it's not me. And I'm better at, doing that, and I want to give myself that kind of love too, right? Like, hey, if I'm having a bad day, be understanding to myself too. Try and figure out what got me there versus just being upset. So I've learned that, and it's something that it's going to take me the rest of my life to learn. But if I can be better today than yesterday and better tomorrow than today, it means I'm on the right path. And I think I'm doing that.
Oh, you are. You are. And it's not easy for anybody in a regular life. I say regular life because ours life is a little bit irregular because of our social media presence. And we are almost glued to social media because that's what we do. We work for a social media radio station. So there's no getting away from social media. when you work for a social media radio station. We're out here, and so is the entire planet. And that gets to be a lot. And it can be daunting. Now, pre you going on your trip, before you went on your trip, some of the things that were happening on social media in different communities that are in and around what we do. It got pretty bad. There's a lot of people that are hurting out there. There's a lot of people with a lot of hate in their hearts, and they're lashing out at a lot of people. And you and I have both been caught up in that to an extent, you more so in the recent past than others. Coming back after Iboga and dealing with all of that, which is still there. The difference in you, I mean, all I can do is smile because I'm like, yeah, girl, you go, because you are handling that like a fucking pro now.
Oh, like I said, I have a lot more understanding in me. And it's not that I have more, I have less hate in my heart. And the hate didn't come from anybody in my present. It came from what that little girl went through. That's where my hate came from. That's where my rage came from. That's where my anger came from. And you know what? Where, she's in my heart now, and she's feeling better, and she's happier, and she's integrating back with me. And so I have to look back at the person I was before I even started with cannabis. Because I was on pharmaceuticals left, right, and center. And, to put it bluntly, I was a fucking bitch.
Yeah.
I was probably one of the most horrible people to be around because nothing was right and nothing was my fault and everybody was wrong. And I had no understanding for anybody else's issues.
Defense mode.
And that's a really, I lived in fight or flight for 44 years, and it's a shitty fucking way to live. And I don't want to be that person anymore. And cannabis and psilocybin really helped me start to kick that person out of my heart. And Iboga has come along and given me this fucking soccer cleats to finish the job. Because in talking with other friends that have done ayahuasca, I mean, I really do feel Iboga's a very male, masculine entity. They figure ayahuasca is a very female, feminine entity. They're both hard on you. My friend Steve calls ayahuasca mom and Iboga dad, and mom will, give you a spanking. Dad will kick your fucking ass. And I went right for dad. And he didn't just kick my ass and tell me, that you're right, Cindy, that's a shitty way to be. He helped me kick that person out of my heart. Like I said, he gave me the soccer cleats to get that, to finish getting that hate and anger and rage out. And that leaves you with a lot of love and understanding for the way people are. Yeah, I was a bitch 7 years ago. I mean, and I've done bitchy things since then. But that's not who I am in my heart. And I now have that ability to be that person. And I'm thankful to Iboga for that.
And we don't have to live in our past.
The only person that I'm worried about accepting that and believing that fully is myself, and my daughter, my dad, and my grandkids. And, as long as I have those four people in my life and in my heart, I'm a happy lady. Now I want to keep my friends too, but I'm sorry, but my grandkids come first, right?
Oh, absolutely. Family first. If you feel it in your heart, then they will.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you feel it in your heart, then they will, in turn, right? I mean, people are intuitive that way for sure. The change in you has been just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. Watching you deal with crap has been, all I can do is smile. That's all I can do is smile. I watch you now and I'm like, oh yeah. And all I can do is smile. It's truly uplifting for me to see this and watch you on your journey and just keep encouraging you to go forward because it ain't over yet. What's next?
No. Well, you and I are working on putting a little film together. Something might be happening in November. I'm still waiting to hear.
Yeah.
The fuck have I done? You know, and I'm looking forward. I am hoping to return back to BC. There is another plant medicine I would like to take, and I've been given the name of another facilitator to reach out. Blair actually suggested it to me. I mean, I'm not done with plant medicine. I'm not done with Iboga. I would love to do more ceremonies and learn more about me. You know, let go of, you know, any negativity again that may creep back in. Because, you know, you were all susceptible to it, right? Like, I mean, like I'm using all my, you know, I'm fighting. I'm not doing my best to not let it back in. But, you know, like none of us have perfect days every day.
No, that's right.
You know, so I want to gain more strength. I want to, I mean, I learned a lot about me when I was on this. I didn't just help help cure my PTSD, but, you know, I grew up, my mom didn't know who her biological father was, you know, and since she's passed away just over 4 years ago, she's met him. And I felt all that in the hug. I got shown a lot of First Nations stuff because my biological grandfather was Cree, you know, and I feel like I am, you know, part of my future is to learn about that and to learn about my family's history. It's, you know, it's when you have 23, 24 hours of walking with the spirits, you end up with a lot of stuff to learn. It was incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, you're still walking the path. You're still doing your thing. You're still learning with the help of Garyth, of course, your psychedelic guide. You guys really made a connection. I know it's pretty strong on Cindy's end. Garyth and I had a conversation a while back, and I think the connection is strong for her on his part too. You guys really connected on a spiritual level for what you're doing, didn't you?
Well, we kind of we don't work with a whole bunch of people. You know, I used to be in a position in Iboga where we worked with more people, and in many respects that's like just getting spread too thin. And much of this kind of work really is, you know, about a relationship between the people working with the medicine, you know, between us. So it's and we feel it's important to not work with too many people. Do you know what I mean? So that you can maintain a relationship. You know, it doesn't become impersonal or something like that. And unfortunately, a lot of the bigger facilities, or you know, when it comes to, you know, other things like ayahuasca and stuff like that, sometimes so many people are attending ceremony that it becomes impossible to you know, to maintain some kind of meaningful relationship simply because of the amount of people that's, you know, and then that's which we're seeing more and more of, and we'll see more of in the future, is because it becomes as it becomes more mainstream and unfortunately more industrialized and corporatized in some areas. But you know, I kind of feel that might be a little bit like the way cannabis went. You know, there'll be always big hoorah in the beginning, and then after a while there'll be, you know, some of the old guard still standing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I was going to make the same comparison, Garyth, you know, with cannabis. I mean, we're seeing it now evolve. We do several shows on our network that involve news and anything that's in the psychedelic or cannabis mainstream news. And for years, we watched the evolution of cannabis in the news. And it, you know, it went from, you know, one story a month to one a week to 5 a week to 10 a day. you know, and just becoming more and more publicized all the time. We're seeing that same steamroller going forward in psychedelics now with mainstream media. And as soon as they grab hold of a ball, you know, that's it. Mainstream media, you know, they're going to try and run the narrative on this, which is why, you know, underground media such as us try and hold up our little white flags going, hey, over here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're seeing a huge steamroll.
Yeah, it's interesting times. You know, there's things to learn from what happened with cannabis, you know, in the way that you know, rolled out with a lot of corporate interest. And the same thing is going to happen, you know, is happening already with psychedelics.
Oh, we lost Garyth. He hit
did.
a button and he I bet you, I seen his hand go down like this. I bet you he hit a button on his phone.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you use your phone for anything else on StreamYard, it cuts you off.
Yep. So hopefully he'll be back in a second.
Hopefully he'll pop back in. Cindy, I mean, you've seen the evolution of what I'm talking about with psychedelics in the news, being a reefer reporter yourself, right? We'll chat a bit about this until Garyth joins us.
Yeah, you know, like we've been watching psychedelics from the side for a while now. We've watched them just about ruin cannabis, and now we're watching them all get Section 56s to study psilocybin, which is it's really, really exciting. But as a cannabis patient who watched them kind of ruin cannabis for a while for us, I am terrified to what they're going to do with mushrooms.
Yeah, me too. It seems to be going down the same path, and that is very scary. And it looks like Garyth is trying to come back in. There he is.
Yeah,
Hi,
I don't know
Garyth.
what happened there. Hi, I lost you there
all
for a
good.
second.
You're back.
Hey,
You're back.
I'm
So
back.
yeah, we've seen the evolution, streamroll in media. What do you feel about that? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Does it make you nervous, anxious, scared, or happy?
Well, it's interesting. I'm actually at the moment I'm part of a psychedelic practitioner training program with Synthesis, which is a company out of Holland, and they do synthesis psilocybin retreats, and they're also now I'm enrolled in the first psychedelic practitioner program. I managed to get into that because I've been working with psychedelics for the last almost 10 years, whereas I wasn't able to get into CIIS or MAPS because I don't have the other credentials. But Synthesis perspective is that there are many different ways of knowing. And psychedelics really come from indigenous cultures and not from corporate cultures or therapist cultures, actually. You know, so I feel that it's not something that should be left in the hands of the medical system and corporations. And that's what's happening at the moment. And so being part of something like Synthesis in many ways is part of the community pushing back against that. Because in many ways, that is, again, just colonization. You know, it's colonization of plant medicine.
Yeah. We've seen that across the board.
By rich white men.
Yeah, we've seen that across the board, you know, with like, as you say.
Yeah, and they have absolutely fuck all to do with psychedelics. What they're interested in is money. And you know, and psychedelics and money, and so in that sense, it's like oil and water. So it's going to be interesting to see how it rolls out. And also the same thing with the drug war, because the drug war is an absolute colossal failure, and it's done nothing but more harm than good. So if they're going to continue with the same old, we're still back at fucking square one, aren't we? So, but it's interesting times, but I really feel that many more people need to be coming to the table and not just, quote unquote therapists and corporations. And for a start, psychedelic therapy won't be available to people financially. It won't be available to most people. It'll just be available to rich white people. If it rolls out in the model that they want it to roll out,
that they want it to roll out in. Exactly. I mean, if we go back, 100 years, cannabis was in our diets. Farmers were producing hemp. They were producing cannabis on their farms for industry use as well as for farm feed. Byproducts were fed to all of our livestock. The livestock in turn is fed to us, so we are ingesting cannabinoids. They removed it from the pharmacopoeia. They took it off the market. They made it illegal. Livestock aren't eating it anymore. By 1960, cancer is running rampant because we don't have these cannabinoids running through our systems. People don't realize that it's only been illegal for a very short period of time. And the reason it became illegal has everything to do with the almighty buck. Iboga and Ibogaine follow the same path. They've only recently become illegal in this country, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did they become illegal?
Iboga was an unlicensed natural health product in Canada, I think until 2016 or 2015, something like that. It had kind of flown underneath the radar, So, I mean, there had been a couple of hospitalizations here in Canada regarding Iboga, and Iboga and Ibogaine, unlike most other psychedelics, do have the potential to do a lot of harm. That's why people have to go and get EKGs and blood work and stuff like that. So there aren't many psychedelics that can kill you, and Ibogaine is one of them. So I understand why there was a knee-jerk reaction from Health Canada, but it wasn't thrown into the classification as an illegal drug with no medical value. I believe it resides in Schedule 6, because even anecdotally, they know damn well that it has medical value, and so they're just waiting on clinical trials and things like that before they can go, okay, let's see if we can use it like this or like this,
Yeah.
So.
And how can we put it in a pill and manufacture that? That'll be the first order of business.
Well, but there isn't a lot of incentive around that because, especially with the opioids and things, there's a lot of opioid replacement therapy, and there's no need for opioid replacement therapy if people do Ibogaine therapy. In the bigger picture.
Yeah, they'll lose too much money. Yeah. Well, that's when they buy it and bury it, right? That's the sad part.
Yeah.
For sure. Cindy, I'm gonna go back to you for a quick second here. You've embraced your past. You're looking forward to the future. Your healing and learning journey continues. The evolution continues. What is your next goal do you want to advance into other psychedelics and try them to see what they'll bring you? Or are you now firmly planted in Ibogaine?
No, my curiosity is actually more piqued about other psychedelics now more than ever. I want to find out, I got to learn what I can or cannot do, how much time I would have to put in between anything, if any. But most definitely, I have friends that are heading down to Mexico, and they're going to be helping to run. They go down there for ayahuasca treatments, and one of them is going to start. She's going to start facilitating people coming down from Canada as things are opening up. And they've offered me a spot, and it's not that expensive. I'm half curious about it, but at the same time, I want to learn a little bit more. From what I have learned, the diet for a couple of weeks leading into drinking ayahuasca is much more intense than what I put myself through getting ready for Iboga. And that's the part that kind of has me turned off. I got to give up all of that for 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm not sure, right? Yeah. And
yeah, there are
peyote,
sacrifices to be made, right?
yeah, and learning that I'm a quarter First Nations, Cree, that leads me into curiosities about peyote as well, and learning more on that side. And I think that's going to come with education into my family history. Yeah.
I'm curious about peyote as well. I'm very curious. I'm also extremely intrigued by DMT.
Yeah. And I'll never give up on mushrooms, and LSD has I've always, I always enjoy a hit of LSD from time to time. So yeah, the psychedelics are all amazing. I have been lucky enough to try DMT a couple of times. I think that it's, you should be curious about it, Kim.
I think I should be. I had one experience, Garyth. I don't know if you are familiar with oh God, I've just gone blank. Salvia. Where does that fall?
Where does it fall?
Yeah,
in
like
the
is
fucking
it
in the what the fuck is that bracket? It's not a it's not a. I know it's used shamanically by a certain group of people in Central America, I think, or South America, but like it's I find it to be such a what's the word for it? You just never know what's going to happen. And I've only tried it a couple of times, and I didn't find it particularly pleasurable or insightful. Another friend of mine did it, and she said that she thought somebody was driving an ice pick through the top of her head. So after hearing that story, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to bother with the old salvia thing,
I will own up. That is the one drug, or whatever it is. That is the one substance that I have tried.
Okay.
I was curious. One day I was curious. My son had some, and he said, "Here, Mom, try this." And apparently it's the real stuff, and it's the strong one, and he got it from some Chinese shop in Chinatown, and I don't know. I said, yeah, okay, I'm going to try some of this. That was the most fucked up thing I have ever done in my life. It was the only time that, we talked earlier about me and my toes are always on the ground. No, they weren't. And I didn't have a choice. I was gone and on another planet, and it was the strangest thing, but I was in a very bad atmosphere for doing it. I mean, there was 10 people partying in a room while I was laying in a chair going, because I was wasted. And for about 10 minutes, right? So I had all of the influences from everything going on around me, which just made the whole thing totally messed up. And it scared the shit out of me. And I think that's part of the reason why Iboga and Ibogaine and ayahuasca and all the rest of it scare me.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you had an experience on something like that, because it's not even a tryptamine, it's like a dissociative something or other, So it doesn't really belong in the category of psychedelic anyhow. I don't think, it's dissociative.
Okay.
So
all right. So when people ask me about that, I can say no. No, don't do it. No, well, that's what I've been saying since I did it.
Some people, I think, in a very small doses or something, it might, some people might find it pleasurable, but in higher doses, nah. Or
no, I think I did a little too much.
Unpredictable, So
yeah, no, it was not pleasant.
And I don't
know
what what could you bring back from that? Something, I don't know what my friend brought back from having an ice pick driven through her head. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I wonder
yeah.
what the metaphor in that is, you know.
Absolutely,
deeper
absolutely.
meaning of
So I mean,
that,
there
you
are
know?
some substances out there that they're not. I know people that put that in the psychedelic realm, and it shouldn't be there.
Well, you know, it's just not. It's not a tryptamine, you know, like most of, or a phenylethamine, like cactus. Do you know what I mean? And those are the two different groups, psychedelic groups, and it doesn't belong in either of those, you know. So,
Yeah. Agreed. All right, Cindy, my dear, I look forward to the evolution as it continues. I look forward to getting together with you, in person and there's Millie, Nurse Millie.
yeah,
Sorry.
Smith
Nurse
just jumped up to
Millie.
say hi.
She had to come in and say hello. Nurse Millie took care of Cindy during the
Oh.
retreat there. That's Nurse Millie.
Yeah, her and Blair just come back
Fantastic.
from
Little rescue
being
dog from Tijuana.
Yeah,
That's,
she's
that's
beautiful.
amazing. You rescue dogs, you rescue people. You're just awesome, aren't you, Garyth?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, we just try and do our little bit where we can. That's all, you know. So.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. And that's all what we can all do, right? Is do the best we can. And if you're struggling, maybe Ibogaine will help you clear a path. Garyth, how do people get a hold of you? Tell us about Inner Realm. Give us a website or some way for people to find out more.
Yeah, they can find us by Googling Inner Realm Center, Vancouver, or like that. I can be found on Facebook as well, Garyth Moxey. So, you know, I can be pretty easily found just by Googling our name, Inner Realms Ibogaine, and that takes you to our website, and then you can contact either myself or Blair. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And we hope to have Blair on in a show.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. She's Blair is a huge. Often people see me as Inner Realms, but Inner Realms wouldn't happen without her.
He's a large part of
what I'm told.
I'm
told.
I'm the kind of front person, and like she is really keeping all of the shit together behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So,
fantastic. Well, hopefully Blair joins us at a show.
Yes,
absolutely.
yes,
I hope she
great.
joins us on a show in the near future. We're looking forward to speaking with her and picking her brain on her perspective of all of this. And Cindy, you're back in the joint host chair in 2 weeks.
In a couple of weeks, we are back, and we have a fantastic guest coming up. I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this one. I'm going to do some research into the business too.
Yeah, me too. We will let you all know with our upcoming ad who that special guest is. But more talk on more psychedelics on a brand new frontier. That's an old frontier. So we'll talk more about that in 2 weeks' time when we come back with more on Open Your Eye. And my guest today, normally joint host Miss Cindy Howell, and her psychedelic guide, Mr. Garyth Moxey, joined us today to talk about Cindy's Ibogaine journey. And it's just been fantastic discussion with you guys. We're going to be talking more as time goes on with Cindy throughout the various shows that we have with her experiences popping in and out with other guests because they will most definitely be applicable at the time. So we haven't heard the last from Cindy, and we'll be updating with a follow-up show in the future after you do your next experience for sure. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll be back again in 2 weeks. Thank you, Garyth, for being here. Thanks, Cindy.
I really appreciate it, Garyth.
And
You
I
take
thank you,
care.
Cindy, for telling everybody your story and sharing your
Yeah.
journey along the way. And many thanks to the Pace Radio Network for hosting us and broadcasting the audio podcast on paceradio.net. We'll see you in 2 weeks, everybody. Peace out.
Bye.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
The People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network provides its listeners with news, information, and a place to be heard. This is done with a twice-weekly broadcast of the Reefer Reporters and by providing cannabis advocates a place to be heard through Cannabis and Coffee to Marijuana and the award-winning Pace Radio Show. Catch it all here at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
What is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network? It's a network of people advocating cannabis education.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP.
Who has huge buds? You do. If you shop at BMA Hydroponics, attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888.
The only way to go.
We are People Advocating Cannabis Education here at paceradio.net.